Oh my gosh, a full life. Happy New Year's, everyone. Go, go, go. Hey, you guys. Hello. I'm your girl, Champagne. This is my channel. Let's get into it. So, you guys, I won't be doing everyday lives because, life, but I did my days of live. I did get up to 124 subscribers from 60. Thank you guys so much. Yes, thank you. So I want to do some more long form content and put it up there. Maybe like chop these up as shorts. But I wanted this channel because I do like to make you guys laugh. I love making you laugh. I like making you, you know, making you feel good, making you guys smile. But I also feel like I want to I want to share things that happen in my life so I can help other people who need it. Because I'll tell you the truth, you guys. I went through a whole lot so you wouldn't have to go through that, right? I have real life lessons that I want to share with you guys through humor, honesties, and that I've been there stories, right? So I do have some younger people watching these shows, and I think about when I was younger, when I was coming up, and did I have people, people, I don't know what it was, like, if your parents told you stuff, you really didn't, like, listen to your parents, or somebody's coming from a judgy, preachy place, you're like, I ain't trying to hear all that." But, I don't wanna come from a judgy, preachy place, but I just wanna share some hilarious clips, show you how I relate, and just so you will know that, some of the things that I did when I was younger, in my 20s and my 30s, like, and even in my 40s, I'm not well into it, but I just want you guys to know that I get it. I understand. This life is tough, right? Life is tough. And I just want you guys to know that I understand. But I also come across these clips online and I'm like, oh my gosh, I've got to share them with people. I've got to share them. I've got to talk to them. But today, when I was watching these clips, one of the things I thought about was the times where I realized I was the problem, the moments when I realized that I was the problem. Sometimes we encounter situations or we go through things and it doesn't have a what's the word I want to use? A good outcome. And we tend to kind of blame other people, blame everyone else instead of just looking at ourselves and thinking, "Oh my gosh, am I the problem? Am I the drama?" Like Cardi B. I think Cardi B realizes she is the drama in a lot of her situations. I think she has an idea that she is problematic, but I think it comes down to sometimes people know that they're problematic and they feel like they can't do anything about it. And about that. So thank you guys for jumping on. If this is your first time coming here, thank you for coming. Thank you for watching. Please hit that like, that notification bell so that every time I go live, you're aware of it. So I wanted to show just some clips of Natalie Nunn is in the hot spot right now. Everybody is talking about her because she did an interview with Cam Newton. Cam Newton is a football player, if you don't know who it is. And if you don't know who Natalie Nunn is because she's like famous to a certain demographic. So I don't believe that everybody needs to know who she is. I don't really think that you should know who she is. The only reason why I know who she is because when I was younger, there was a show called Bad Girls Club. And when I'm saying younger, I mean my early 20s. And me and my girlfriend Shan would get together and we would watch the Bad Girls Club. Now, mind you, I didn't watch that Bad Girls Club to get real life advice. I used Bad Girls Club for what it was. Bad Girls Club was a bunch of women. When it first started out, Bad Girls Club were young women who were like ages, I want to say 21 to maximum maybe 29, sometimes 30, but 21 through 30 who had like anger issues or who were problematic and they come together in this household to pull it together so they're no longer problematic. Now, along the way, because you're dealing with a whole bunch of different personalities, of course, there would be some drama. And these women would sometimes, they yell and scream, and then they would come to blows, like they would fight. So when I first started watching Bad Girls Club, the fights didn't happen as much as they happen now. The fights were like here and there, and it was like, oh my gosh, that was crazy. That make no sense. That was dumb. Or, oh, she got her, right? But it was just every now and then. And I think we or Oxygen, I think Oxygen who took it, they started putting together, oh snaps, people like it when the women fight on the show. So if they fight on the show, more people will watch it. And I guess that's true, because then you started seeing more and more fights, and then the fights started to get, before, if you fought, you would get kicked out the house because it was so you could become better. But then they were like, well, let's not kick them out the house. Maybe we let them go stay in a hotel until they get it together. So they started doing that, go stay in a hotel to get together. The only way you got kicked out then, the way for you to get kicked out of the Bad Girls Club back then was you would have to injure somebody pretty badly, or maybe some blood was drawn. And then they're like, okay, we gotta kick you out the house. Or if the fight was too brutal, like they would go and get women who are from like the hood, and they would bring them in with these regular chicks who are not from the hood. They're used to little petty cat fights where they're just like, no, stop it, no. But they weren't used to real life brawlers, which is always a bad mix. So they would go get that brawler with the girls who ain't trying to fight for real, and that brawler would beat the mess out these women. And the women would get kicked out. But in my head, I'm just like, duh, you know that she's a fighter. What? She looks like she can fight. Look at her. She looks like she has nothing but a hard life. You know she's doing that. So, which was wild. So, the Bad Girls Club that you see now, is now on Zeus. That's horrible. Like, even when I was younger and I watched it, it wasn't anything that I could relate to. It was a way that I felt like you should conduct yourself as a woman, as a human being. I never thought about that when I was younger. And then when they had more fights, I definitely didn't think that it was good. So, and then I looked at some of those women on there and I was like, oh my gosh, you are the problem. And the problem with being the problem is that if you don't see that you're the problem, you're going to continue to have issues throughout your life. So let me show you guys just a little quick snippet of it. We're going to watch. And I'm not going to let it play the whole time. I'm just going to show you. This is Natalie Nunn. This was back when she was 24 years old. So almost 20 years ago. If you know who Natalie Nunn is, you know that, yeah, she's always had like that strong chin of hers that everybody talks about and they make fun of. I don't want to make fun of, no, I don't like making fun of women's looks. Unless, they started with me first. But I don't just look, because everybody looks differently. Everyone looks different. We all have different looks. Instead of us sitting here and shitting on people in the way they look, things that they cannot control, like let's not be so problematic. So I'm not going to sit here and be like everyone and talk about her. But I do want to put out there that she definitely has very high self-esteem. She has very high self-esteem. I don't think that there's anything wrong with having high self-esteem. But if you treat people in a certain manner and you treat people a certain way, all I'm going to say is, like, be aware that might come back and it hurt you. That might come back and knock you in your butt. So let's watch a little bit of Natalie. If you guys can't hear it, drop a message in the comments and I'll fix it.
I like to party. I'm used to the Hollywood level, the nice things, guys to fly me out, guys to buy me stuff. So if you can't do any of those things for me, I don't even waste my time. It just sounds like a second grade teacher.
You're like Sporty Spice and I'm like Baby Spice.
And it's just...
So of course that's where the whole, and I'll mute it a little bit and then we can keep watching. That's where a lot of the professional the confessionals, that's where they go. Confessionals started right here, because you would have, I don't know when they would do the confessionals, but you would have a situation that occurred and then they would go back and do the confessionals and be like, oh my She is such a B word. I cannot stand her. Ooh, I just can't stand like they would have that. So let's watch a bit more.
Cool, have a party at the house by your damn self.
So her, I forgot what her name was. Her and Natalie were cool. They were best friends. But I will say she was the problem in all of it. I can't remember exactly what she did, but she was cool until she was like really clingy and just was doing too much. So her and Natalie ended up falling out.
Ain't no one worried about you, bitch. Florina just doesn't get it. She doesn't know how to be cute, and it's embarrassing.
Isn't that great? Just that attitude to talk about the girls, but.
Chicken-headed asshole! Go back to cream shop! That's why your weave came out, bitch! You got a cream shop weave, hoe!
How you doing?
Natalie.
Rich, nice to meet you.
Rich and Amber are like Predator versus the alien. And just go with the flow. Like, you're real uptight. And so, 10 and 2. What are you mad about? Because you're the weakest white girl in the building? No, bitch. I've been in Manhattan for like 3 years. Let's go outside!
I can't really show nobody fighting them like that on the channel. Let's skip it because I don't want to get flagged. Let's keep going.
I kind of don't. Pretend that she's this good girl. She's just a slut like the rest of them. Oh.
You see how she says she's a slut like the rest of them? Now, Natalie also, she would sit here and just be really cool friends with people, just make friends with the girls in the house. And then we'll talk about them like a dog in the confessional. Crazy work. Crazy work.
Is that trash or are you still working on it?
No, I'm done. You can just throw it away for me. And she cleaned it up too. Well, so you want to be the housemaid? Get to work then.
Okay.
And that was Annie. She was the you could tell, I think her name was Annie, but you could tell she was like a fish out of water. She was just, trying to make friends. And her and Natalie were friends, but just like everything else that happened, Natalie one by one would just start falling out with girls.
Everyone is doing and she's going to the pool like she's cleaning up some island or some. I'm just gonna put on my bathing suit and go lay by the pool so I can get some sun. No, bitch, you're gonna get in there and clean the bathrooms up right now. What do you mean a glass spilled on her? What do you mean a glass spilled on her? No, dumb bitch. It's okay. We're good. It's good.
And she used to do this thing where she'd be like, I run LA, I run LA. Like that was her theme song, because I don't know how much she ran LA, but she definitely said she ran it a lot. She ran it a lot.
It's funny. I just told her, I said, are you kidding me? $2 bottles? I've never even heard of such a thing. She's a cheap little dumb bitch who sits in her room and reads a book every day. She might want to read about the good life, because I'll write a book about it, and then her ass can really know what it's like to spend some money on some liquor. Cheap bitch. Bitch, watch out, ho. Don't get up on the first
Hit
night.
me.
Don't do it,
Hit me
Amber.
then, bitch.
Don't do
Don't
it.
touch her hair.
Okay. You pull my hair, and you're
Hit
gonna
me.
get up.
She's from LA.
They're lame.
And also Natalie couldn't really fight. She fought. She knew who she could pick with. She's a bully. Bullies know who they can pick with. Bullies know who they can press, and they'll continue pressing those persons. The people who could really put her down, I think later down the line, it was a chick named Camilla. Camilla put her underneath, put her down, and she tried to be cool with her, and then her and Camilla fell out. But Camilla, she always was a fighter.
Give me good money, so.
Absolutely. Jewish. Last question. What's your credit score? Her nose looks like a gorilla nose. Do you like Chris?
And here's a thing about talking about other people that I don't love. I feel like when you talk about other people, you better be a 10. So to pick out somebody's nose, to pick out somebody's face, to pick out whatever they, things that they may be insecure about, that's crazy to me.
I heard more than 2 words about her daughter. I heard more about her boyfriend. Tell me about your daughter, and then you're a real woman. I'm not talking. I'm keeping it 100. What about your daughter? What a mom. Go take care of your baby, ho. Girlfriends.
And what's crazy about that, where she's telling her to take care of her baby, she does this interview with Cam Newton, and she talks about how she hates people talking about family. Now, she's 24 in her early 20s here. She's like 41, 42 now. It could be a difference of just, life changes and your thought process is changing. I'm sure if somebody had a video of some shit when I said it in my 20s, I probably would not agree with it in my 40s. I just wouldn't agree, wouldn't agree at all.
A guy.
Flo keeps saying that some guy
Flo,
from
that's her
home is
name.
sending her flowers and stuff, and she puts the teddy bears on her pillow. Yes, Flo, honestly, I think that you're sending yourself flowers. You need to stop. If you have something to say, just come and say it to my face. Don't write me a little petty note. She goes like this, I'll call you right when I get home, okay? So that
Because you are not important.
cool. Good night. Bye. It's box eating time. He's having kids and don't know who the dad is. Who's the hoe now? Say something else, because your nose will get broke.
Now, have you guys, I mean, you haven't, but as we've been watching it, she's been fighting everyone she's been cool with. She fights. That should tell you something. If you find out, I've always was interested in those women who always had a friend and they always fell out with those friends.
Monster. We're never coming back here again.
Thank God.
Shut up, bitch. Shut up. The orphan kid is about to step her game up. Woo! Kendra's weave looks like
You are the prettiest and the only girl that
That's her name. I knew it was Annie.
on the whole mess.
I found my new best friend.
Annie is the most pathetic bad girl in the house. Why is she even there? I totally agree.
Ryan, you cannot.
A bad girl is me.
And so I will tell you that Natalie is entertaining. Like, people like watching her because she's entertaining. And that's what television is about, right? That's what YouTube is about. Everyone is just, you're entertaining, right? So I just want to give you just a little glimpse of what she was like in her younger years, right? So you would think after all this time, after all these years, right? She mature and grows and she, learns, because that's what life should be like. Life should be you encounter things, and from these things that you encounter, you should become a better person, because you spend 40 years on this planet, or 50 or 35 years, or whatever the hell long you are, right? You should learn. You should not be behaving the same way at 40 that you were at 30, or at 30 that you were at 20, or at 20 that you were at, right? You see, there should be improvement. You should be growing. You should be learning. So Natalie did an interview with Cam Newton, and I don't really watch Cam often. I don't really watch. I used to, when I was doing the podcast, I would watch and dial into celebrities, but I really don't care about it as much, because it ain't got nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with me. I kind of don't care. I don't live their life. They don't live my life. I don't like any. I don't like to speculate. I find that people will speculate on people's lives and they don't know anything about these persons. And I thought to myself, I don't want to speculate on people's lives, and I really don't know much about them, at least not a lot. So what I'm trying to do is not speculate on who Natalie is from behind the scenes, because she could be a totally different person than what we see out here. But all I can do is speculate on what I see, the kind of persona that she puts out in public, what she puts out there. So let's look at this one. We're not going to watch the whole thing, because again, it's just what they're talking about overall is not really interesting to me, but I'm just trying to show her behavior. So
let me just say the one last thing I wanted to say about Nick Cannon came to Zeus and he had a show called Bad versus Wild. Lemmy kept saying, you versus Jocelyn. I said, that was the finale episode. I don't want to do this, Lemmy. Come on, Lemmy, you messy. Like, you being messy. And I'm tired of being the one that's blamed for being messy. It's not me, it's Lemmy. So Lemmy was like, The baddies versus the cabaret girls. He already know how me and Jocelyn feel about number 1 show, number 2, but we won. We got the belt. I ain't never took a L. I told you that. So I walked off with the belt. Cam, how you fumble the ball? Like, come on, bro. Like, I want to get into that. Like, Cam, like, at one point, you got to understand, like, there's no way in life that you can fucking take an L and you're a fucking superstar. You're the number 1 quarterback that, bro, what the fuck?
Ray J.
You get all the way to the fucking Super Bowl and don't get a ring? Delusional. I want to talk about that.
Talk to me.
I know, I'm an athlete. You know, I was an open 400 runner. I ran the 452
I heard you was in the Junior
52
Olympics.
seconds flat. I've never took an L. I ran with Allison Felix. I ran with all the best of the best. I went to USC. You know what it is. Like, you can't get there and not perform.
You see the way he looking? Sorry, I'm still trying to get with the code. But it looked like he want to knock her block off, or he's just like, this chick ain't talking about nothing, because she's not.
Because you're a little soft a little bit.
So
I know, that's what. So, have you been in any other real fights in your life? I want to know for real. Like, just tell me if you've been in a fight before.
No.
And
no
one's ever tried you, like in the like not in the locker room, but I mean that sounds crazy, huh? I meant like one of your teammates ever been like, you didn't throw me the ball, nigga. What's up, ho? And no one tried to press you, and you ain't had to like.
See, that's the thing.
Come on.
Now, I will give it to her. She's probably drunk. She's probably been drinking for a while. She's probably been, I give it to her for that. But this is your conversation at 40?
Fight with anyone that's been a teammate of yours, not on the opposite team, teammates. Don't lie.
Like, you're worried about fighting?
The truth.
Ooh.
Tell the truth.
Swung up.
And it was like something like, I was like, I grabbed the bottle out of her hand and said, this not your shit. This is the baddies table. Go over there, bitch.
That's what you said?
That's all I said. Sorry for your gingerbread house. I'm sorry, I'm gonna put the light back on. Oh, god damn, yeah. Now you're gonna make it look, that's all right. Sorry, yeah, all right, okay. So.
And honestly, Cam he looks a little bit bewildered. He's trying to ask her questions, and she's just like,
Like, it's so messy. It's always some messy shit, Cam. So then here she comes, and I'm like, get up out of here. She gets up out of there, whatever. And then now she's on the Breakfast Club. That's how it went. And then now, like, it was like a year or two later, too. It wasn't even like, it was like, and then the Breakfast Club, we want Natalie and Lemmy to come up to the Breakfast Club. And I went up there with Lemmy. I said, I don't put my name on that shit, because I don't even fuck with Charlamagne like that neither.
But he was
because that nigga was talking shit about me from 2009 when I came on Baddies, talking about you ain't never gonna be shit, bitch. I make more money than you, and I'm that bitch. So I'm like, okay, so
I don't know that that's necessarily true. I don't know how much money Charlamagne makes, but he just signed a deal, like a multi-million-dollar deal, and I'm not saying she's broke at all, because that's probably a trigger. She definitely has more money than I do. But I don't know what I would say about Charlamagne. Like, you talking real crazy right now.
I'm gonna walk in here at the Breakfast Club.
So strong.
Because it's annoying, because motherfuckers was talking shit from years ago.
Okay.
And now I'm here back at the Breakfast Club, 2005. Like, I'm like, you said I was never gonna be shit. I was a big chin. And I'm not including myself. There was like 4 faces up there. Right, Cordell, how many faces are up there? I said Kim, Nene, and then how many more faces were up there? 4, right? It's 4 or 5. It's like 4 or 5. How
4.
Many? 4. Okay. I remember my picks. Oh, are you guys ready for this one? Everyone's going to be mad. Oh, I'm about to light the internet up because I know what I'm doing. 2 million?
That's nothing.
Snooki!
Oh, Snooki. Oh, no.
Jersey Shore on this bitch,
Hey, Snooki.
All right. So I just wanted to kind of share. I think we get it, right? I think we get it about being problematic. And I would say that she was problematic. And there's been times where I realized that I was problematic. But I've never been like that. That's like nth level, you will never say, I've been like that. But problematic isn't just about the behavior, right? Problematic isn't just about being all over the place like she was, always starting fights, always um, creating havoc or chaos. That's not necessarily just those are not the only times when you are the problem. The problem is also when you look around at your life and you realize, dang, I've been complaining about the same stuff for years and I've done nothing to fix it. I've been complaining about the same thing for years and I've done nothing to rectify it. The certain ways that I, realized that I was the problem was, um, everyone can't be the villain if the pattern keeps following me. When we looked at right now, we saw the behavior that Natalie had back in the day. She still has that behavior that you can see on that show. Um, at some point, if everybody keeps trying you, if everybody keeps pressing you, baby boy, it might be you. You might be the problem. There's been times I've talked to people and I was like, it's wild that you keep having the same problem over and over again. And like it just only happens to you. It only happens to you. No one else has this problem, just you. That's one of the things that I look at. No one else has this problem, just you have this problem. And I'm trying to think of an example of I have a friend who every time I talk to her, she got a new job. And not a new job because she just wants to pick a new job. She has a new job because she keeps getting fired. And when she tells me why she got fired or why she's not at this job, it's usually, it's never, I just didn't like it. Oh, it just wasn't for me. It's always, well, this person was doing this, or this person is a bitch, or this person was, it's always somebody else. And people can't see that if you keep experiencing these same things over and over again, if you keep experiencing these same issues, it's a good chance that it's not them, baby. It's you. And that's hard for people to have to admit that it's them. If you keep having discord with other people, it can't always be them. At some point, you have to turn around and look at yourself and be like, I'm the problem. I'm the problem. And if you keep having the same conflict with different people, you have to realize that. Why do you keep having that same conflict? Why is it that you keep running through these same issues with everybody? I know people want to feel like the world is against them. I know people want to feel like everybody's out to get me. Everybody's out to do me harm. Will there be some people out here who has something against you? Yeah. Will there be some people out here who every now and then wants to get at you? Yeah. But for it to always happen, no matter where you at, no matter what time period you are in, no matter what location, it might be you. And some of those issues, it may not be them. I want you guys to take a moment, kind of look at yourself. You might be a problem. You might be having this issue because that communication isn't there, right? You're not listening to that person there. You're not hearing what that person is saying. You're jumping to conclusions. I'm always curious when people tell me, oh, other people are always doing this to me, because you're really only getting one half of the story. I'm always curious to hear what that person would say about you. Like, what would they say? So sometimes poor communication could be the reason why you're problematic, the way you're talking to people. I remember when I was younger and I was in my early 20s, and my mom was telling me the story. She was telling me the story about my stepdad, about how he was saying, what did he say to her? Something about, you expect me to read my mind. She expected him to read her mind. And she was like, yeah, that is dumb. And when she told me that, I was like, oh my goodness, that is dumb, because I can't read no one's mind. I can, if you don't tell me what's going on, I can guess, I can assume based on, inferring knowledge, looking at stuff, reading it between lines. I could do all of that, but who's to say that I'm right? Who's to say my thought process of what's wrong is actually what's wrong? So it's not fair for you to think, oh, well, you should know what I'm thinking. Do you know what they're thinking? And if you do know what someone else is thinking all the time, kudos to you. You are a bad mamma jamma. You are awesome. But for us normal individuals, we don't know what you're thinking. We don't know what other people are thinking. Not enough to bet your life. Would you bet your life? I think that's going to be my new thing. Would you bet your life that you know somebody else thinking? If I had a gun to your head and I pull the trigger, would you bet it? Now, some people, if you've been with someone for 20, 30 years, that's different because you know them inside out. You know what they're about to say before they even say it. That's that one person. But until you've been putting all those years and that time in, you may not know. So you're going to have to, and we're talking about a significant other. Let it be like someone you're not sleeping with, someone you don't have a relationship with. They don't know, you don't know what they're thinking, and they don't know what you're thinking. So that poor, or just the way that you communicate. They're in my journey, I have found that communication is important. And for some reason, people don't want to communicate. You have people like, oh, I'm tired of repeating myself. I asked you to say it again just once. I remember when I was younger, it was my cousin. She wasn't really my cousin. She was like a friend of the family's daughter. And she would say something once, and like I didn't hear her, or she wasn't clear. And I asked her again, she was like, I'm not a recorder. I'm not a recorder. Oh, okay, but like you weren't clear. And then instead of people saying, oh, this is what I said, and they would either A, not say it, or B, they would say with such an attitude like you are at fault for wanting to be clear, right? That's a form of poor communication. Being able to explain yourself to persons, to people. If they don't understand it, I have the patience to explain things to you until you understand it. Because I would rather us be right, to be on the same page, versus not knowing what's going on. I appreciate that. So sometimes that poor communication is there, which leads to also to defensiveness. Sometimes if people share something with you that is different than what you feel, that is different from what you believe and what you think, you get defensive. I would never, I never said what. And then when you get defensive, when people get defensive, they shut down. They're not trying to listen. They're not trying to understand. I had an example of where an ex of mine. Now, as an adult, I can look back and say, oh no, he was totally in the wrong. But he was like, how old was, I don't want to say his name, but he was 21 years old, an adult. And I've always had a job. I had a job since I was 11. I've always made money or made some type of, I was okay with the concept of exchanging work for food or funds. I've always been okay with that. It made sense to me. If I work, I get this. And then if I do a good job, I get this. Like that always made sense to me. So I didn't mind that. Now he didn't work. And as an adult, he didn't work because he was lazy. Like there is just he was just lazy, and he was used to other people paying for his stuff. His mom and dad gave him a little money. All right. And then he would just live off of women, and the women would give him money because he'd be giving them pipe. And if they had kids, he'd watch their kids. He was content with that type of lifestyle. Me, I ain't got no kids, so there's really nothing you're giving me besides pipe, and that's okay. I appreciate you being, good at it, but every time we hang out, I gotta pay for this. Every time we hang out, I gotta put money. Now, you guys, if he was 21, I was probably 18 years old. I was 18. So I know some of you guys are like, oh my gosh, you dated a dude without a job. 21, you should have a job, but I think that it's worse off if you're like 31 without a job versus 21, because you really should be in college. You're finding your own way. That's cool. But he didn't have a job. So we would go out, we would hang out, and we would do stuff. But every time we would do stuff, I'd have to pay for it, or I'd have to put gas in my car. And, he'd half-ass fix my car. He'd fix it when he, felt like it. So he wasn't even holding up his part of the bargain. So we went out to dinner, went out to like Applebee's, and I paid for everything because I had a job and he did it. He really didn't have any money. I couldn't borrow any no money from him. He was a bum. I'm sorry, that might hurt somebody's feelings. I do not care, but he was a bum. So when we were sitting there at dinner, I remember talking to him because I was like, you never really take me out. And as an adult, I also recognized that he didn't really like me as much as I liked him. So that's why he really didn't want to take me out. He really wasn't trying to take me out. I've learned that when people like you, when people are really into you, they'll do the things you want them to do a lot of times without you even having to ask. If that woman is really into you, you're not going to have to ask her to cook. She's going to cook for you. She's going to clean for you. If that man is really into you, he's going to be like, hey, let's go out to dinner. Hey, let's do this. Like, he's going to do things that make you smile. He's going to want to make you happy. So we'll talk about that down the line. But anywho, I brought up the fact like, hey, why don't you get a job? And he just shut down on me. He was just, I forgot how he was doing the smile like, He got so defensive. He got so in his feelings. And I said it in the nicest way possible. Like, I remember trying to search in my head to figure out what's the nicest way you could tell a man that he should get a job? Like, what's the nicest way to do that? And I remember searching for that. And back then I was way nicer than I am now. Like, I'm nice now, but back then I was a flipping pushover back in the day. And he just shut down. He stopped talking to me. He didn't want to talk anymore. And then he wrote me this text about how he got hurt in his feelings. And then I felt bad for him. But again, like, 18-year-old Champagne, you shouldn't have felt bad for him because he should have had a job. How are you doing all this stuff and you ain't got no job, homie? You asking me for gas money and it's your car. So that defensiveness stopped him from communicating exactly what I said that made him feel that way, right? That communication, also the fact that I couldn't be straightforward, that I couldn't just say it with my chest, that also, made me problematic because when you are not straightforward with what you say, when you don't communicate how you feel to people, you allow people to treat you any way that they see fit. You have a voice. Use that voice. If you don't like something, say it. If you don't enjoy something, say it. If you sit there and you allow people to treat you a certain way and you don't say anything, you don't push back, you don't give anything, that lets me know that you're a problem. You're a problem. And being problematic isn't just about you doing negative things to other people. It can also be how you allow other people to treat yourself. That is problematic to me. So if you got to be honest, even if you're being intimate with people and you don't like what they're doing, say that. Oh, I don't like that. And some people will get mad at you and they'll be like, oh, well, I don't care about what you say. And they'll guilt you so you can keep receiving the treatment that they're giving you, but it's wrong. You have to have communication and don't be defensive. Don't be defensive if someone tells you things. People also have unrealistic expectations, when I kept having the same conflict with different people, I had unrealistic expectations. I expected somebody to treat me a way that they did not want to treat me. That's not their problem. That's not their problem. That's not their issue. They are not at fault. None of that, right? Nothing like that. So I had to make sure that when you talk to people, when you engage with people, you have realistic expectations. I think there are people who have greater expectations for other people than they have for myself. I have to tell one of my sisters because she'll come and, people aren't as good as a friend as I am, and they're not as good as a friend that I am, which, that might be the case, but you also can't hold other people to your standards, to how you act, right? If you feel like if I have a friend, I'm always going to go to the mat. I'm always going to do this. I'm going to give my blood, sweat, tears. I'm going to do this. If you feel like that, You can't expect that of other people. It would be nice if they would do that. But if that's not who they are, if that's not who they've been since day one, you can't expect them to be that way afterwards. That's unfair. That's really unfair of you to do that. So you got to have realistic expectations when you're talking to people. You have to have realistic expectations when you have friends. You can't hold everyone to your standards of life. And I'm not saying that they can't, they can have whatever type of morals. There's a difference between, hey, we need to have similar ideologies and more morals, right? Moral codes or mores, as they may say. We need to have similar ones. That's a situation of, I don't believe in killing people. Do you believe in killing people? You don't? Great. All right. Those are your baseline. But if I feel like every time we hang out, I want to give you $5, I can't expect that of you. That has nothing to do. I can't expect that with you. Another issues with having the same conflict with different people is that we tend to avoid the accountability there. I think people have a weird understanding of what accountability means. So first, let's go. What does accountability mean? I want people to understand, what does accountability mean? What's the definition of it? The meaning of accountability is the quality or state of being accountable, especially an obligation or willingness to accept responsibility or to account for one's actions. So I hear, I go online and I hear people talking about, oh, you have to be accountable. You have to be accountable. But I don't think people really understand what accountability means. Accountability is looking at a situation that you've encountered and what you went through, and you say to yourself, you know what? I probably shouldn't have done that. That wasn't smart. Or accountability is, I watch these shows, cop cams. If you guys have not had a chance to watch those police cams on YouTube, take a moment and watch it, right? It's very interesting. But some of those situations, someone was pulled over for drunk driving, okay? Got pulled up for drunk driving, they were drunk. And the police pulled them over, took them to where they needed to go. All right. Well, not yet. So the police is like, hey, I saw a bottle of beer in your car. You've been drinking? And this person's like, no. And then they go through all this rigmarole, and the police officer catches them with the beer, does a sobriety test. They're drunk. And the police officer is like, you're going to go to jail. Now, what people are doing is they are falling on the ground like toddlers, throwing their bodies on the ground. Oh, Lord, no, I'm not going to jail. Call my dad. Like, just losing their mustard, right? Just going ham. And what's happening is that they're not accepting accountability. Accountability is, you right, I was drinking, thank you. And you accept the consequences. That means you go to jail, or you get a ticket, or you lose your license. Whatever the consequence of that, you accept that. You're not over here crying, complaining, talking about, well, if that police officer didn't find that beer, that's not accountability. Accountability is accepting the consequences to one's actions, or like it says, the willingness to accept responsibility for your action. All right. What accountability is not is that other people don't always and forever call you a drunk. Oh, well, you got pulled over for being, drunk. You need to accept accountability. I'm about to sit here and make you feel awful every single day because you. That's not accountability. That's people who want to make you feel bad because their lives are shitty and they've done bad things, and it makes them feel good to point their fingers at other people and be like, you fucked up, you're horrible. Accountability is accepting the consequences of what you did, acknowledging that your part and where you played. So how does that have to do with having the same conflict with different people? Well, there are people who don't take accountability for those conflicts. You have these same people, these same issues with these people, and instead of you recognizing, oh man, maybe I'm engaging with the wrong people, you're like, oh my gosh, everybody's the issue but me. You have to accept that accountability for yourself, man. Okay, you have to be knowledgeable of what you did. We were like looking at Natalie Nunn, right? And she's fighting women on Bad Girls Club, but a lot of the time she fought people was because of things that were coming out her mouth. So instead of her accepting the butt whoopings that she's about to experience, she was doing all of this. Oh, well, they were doing this and I did the I did this because they did this. You have to accept accountability for your actions. And I will tell you, I know it's hard. It's hard for some people to accept that because they don't want the consequences. It's easier for me to, if you keep running, you feel like I don't have to get the consequences. But you'll keep running to the same issues over and over again. And there's also this thing where people are acknowledging that they have a deficiency, but they also refuse to acknowledge that they should do something to change it. You know, I had someone like who said to me, "Oh well, I did X, Y, and Z, but whatever. It doesn't matter." No, it matters. It matters because had you not done X, Y, and Z, that would not have happened. So you have to accept accountability with that. Patterns don't lie; people do, including us. All right. Another thing that happens when when you realize that you're the problem, you confuse intent with impact, right? So I didn't mean to hurt them, but I did. Um, when I get it, sometimes you tell somebody something or you do something to someone, and what you've done causes their feelings to get hurt or causing them to be to feel bad or horrible or maybe um you said something that you felt was the truth and it hurt their feelings. Now there are times where you do have to say the truth, right? If this is a woman who never wants to work, or in my case, that man, he ain't want to have a job, he ain't want to go to work, you know, those situations you gotta stand on business because that's honest, that's the truth. But there are times when your truth is not necessarily the truth, right? um just because someone wears an outfit you don't like and they didn't ask, like if they ask you what do you, I get it that you don't think it looks nice, but they didn't ask you for that. And because you volunteer information that they didn't ask for, now their feelings are all hurt. And you're just like, oh, well, it's the truth. It's the truth. I get it. It's the truth. But was it necessary to say? Someone said to me, they say, was it necessary? Was it kind? And I forgot there's this other thing they thought. Was it helpful? Was it necessary? Was it kind? Was it helpful? That's why I don't say certain things because first of all, my truth is not the be all end all of truths. Okay. My truth is just that. It's my truth, right? If you make this beer, if this is your beer, Blue Moon, and I don't like Blue Moon, I'm not gonna go on a campaign trash and get Blue Moon because that's my truth. That's my truth. And sometimes the things that you say to people, it hurts their feelings. And what you do is that you minimize those person's feelings. Oh, well, I don't know. Well, this is just how I feel. This is how I feel. Yeah, but why do you get to feel? Why does your feelings matter more than that person's feelings? That's something else I think of. Why does your feelings matter more than that person? You know, um, sometimes you have to say sorry. That may not have been your intent. Your intent, may not have been to hurt them, but you did. So I think in those situations, you do have to pick and choose your battles. But you know, you got to sit there and identify, did you hurt somebody's feelings? Um, Somebody always says that, oh, that wasn't my intention. It may not have been your intention, but the way you get out of that, you have to say, I hear what you're saying. Even if you're being honest, sometimes your honesty is not necessary. Nobody asks for it. There's people out here. I remember people would you would sit here and you would talk to someone and they would be like they would be like oh well, I'm just being honest. Like they would scream across the hallway, oh yeah, your breath stinks. And everybody would hear it. And that person who they were being a clown, they would be like, oh, I'm just being honest. No, you're being hurtful. Like what you said was not necessary. It was unnecessary. And so you're out here hurting people I hate that, for the sake of oh, I'm just keeping it real. No, you're keeping it rude People think keeping it real is just saying whatever it is off the top of their head. And you have to watch your mouth. That's a form of being problematic. I know when I was younger, I would just say whatever come to my mind. And my mom would tell me all the time, you don't always have to say the first thing that comes to your mind. And she's right. You don't. You don't have to say the first thing that comes to your mind. Remember, is it necessary? Is it kind? Uh, is it helpful? Those are things you think about before you just start talking out the side of your neck. Okay. That's a way where you could probably be the problem. Another one is you were reacting from ego and not truth. I wasn't trying to be right. I was trying to win. Sometimes when you have conversations with other people, people are trying to win the argument. They're listening not to understand, they're listening to have a rebuttal. They're sitting here like, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, she said this is what I'm going to say. Okay, she said this is what I'm going to say. Okay, she said this is what I'm going to say. And another thing, but you didn't listen to what they said. You were just ready to give your feedback. An example of that was when I was working on a construction site, and this guy had said, "Hey, we were ready to work at the 6 a.m." And this guy, he was not ready to work. And the other guy who wasn't ready to work, oh, he got defensive. We talked about that, right? Defensive. This is how you know the problem. Well, we did this and we've been doing this, and there was a time last week we're supposed to be here at 3 a.m. and da 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 da. And the guy said, I get all that, but today we did this, we did this. I notified you. You said you could be there. You weren't there. And because you weren't there at the time that I notified you, we couldn't start at 6. He wasn't trying to have it. He's still talking about everything else but what this man just said right there. He was ready to rebut and to push back. Well, this and this and this. But at the end of the day, he didn't hear what this man was saying. Because if he would have heard what this man was saying, he would have said, you know what? You're right. I apologize. We did talk about it. You did say that I should be here at 6. I did agree to be here at 6. I didn't show up. My apologies. Sometimes that's it. I think at this point in my life, I don't get too embarrassed by saying I'm sorry. I remember before I became really okay with apologizing and saying sorry, it did feel like hot lava or something, or some type of heat. Like, oh, I gotta go apologize. Oh, now I have no problem apologizing. If you came to me like, Champagne, I hurt your feelings, I'm gonna listen. I'm gonna listen to it. And if that's how you feel, that's how you feel. I'm gonna say I'm sorry. Now, I will also say this, y'all. And I think this goes for everyone. If you are with somebody and they tend to always feel like their feelings are always hurt when they talk to you and you don't want to change who you are, I'm not even saying that you need to change who you are. You got to think about there's multiple steps and you think about that. But sometimes you do just have to separate yourself. There was a guy who I had went out to we would go out, and I had said something which, I've talked to hundreds of people. No one else ever said there was an issue. And he was like, well, he got so offended by it. And I didn't see the problem with it. Now I apologize because I was like, if that's how you feel, that's how you feel. But I don't have a problem with this. And I don't see myself changing this because I like this. And this is not problematic when I talk to multiple people. And if it's problematic to you, this is something that's the core of me. I don't see myself changing that. So we can be cool. We could be cool out here, but I want somebody who I could joke with. And if you can't take these jokes, which I understand you don't have to, maybe we just be superficial where we just say hi and bye and how's your family and we go on about our day, right? So when you're trying to always be right, you have to listen to the issues that you're really seeing. Your pride is blocking you. You got too much pride. You would rather win the argument than saying, hey, you know what, let me step back and listen. I don't have pride like that. I don't have that type of pride. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'm going to apologize. We're going to go about our day. I don't have that pride. But you have a lot of people who are willing to die on their pride. You have people who are willing to die over pride. Pride is nice. There's a time and place for pride, but pride will make you problematic. You need the validation instead of the resolution. So I remember my dad was telling me this story. And he was telling me the story about him and my stepmom had got into it. And then she had said something and his feelings were hurt by it. And then she came back and she apologized. She was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, X, Y, and Z. I'm sorry, X, Y, and Z." And to me, I would have been like, "Oh, okay, it's all right. That's, shit happens. Thanks, babe." But not him. He's like, "Yeah, that's right. And that's why you this and da, 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 da," and he started going in on her. And I'm like, you could have dead that situation. You could have been like, "I forgive you," and you could have moved on. You could have moved on. But you sat here and you wanted to do this to her because of what? Because you just wanted to win. You don't care about making things better. You don't care about having a better relationship. You want to poke fingers at people, and that is crazy to me. I guess that it's a difference between you valuing somebody and you want that person, or it could also show that you're problematic. You're problematic. You take feedback as a personal attack. So earlier when we talked about the guy where I said, "Hey, you should get a job." Reasonable feedback. You 21 years old and you're borrowing money off of this 18-year-old who got 2, 3 jobs. Yes, my guy, get a job. But you took that feedback as an attack. And that's one of the things that I do appreciate. That's the thing about criticism. People people have issues taking criticism. They have issues with critiquing. If you tell them something, they want to blow up. They want to tell you, you ain't this, you ain't never going to be this. And it's like, this criticism, this critique can help you be a better person. But people don't want to do that. People don't want to be a better person. They would rather, I don't know, just not be a better person. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why. I remember when I was younger, I think people don't like to hear the negative aspects of themselves because it makes them feel deficient, especially if other people have made you feel deficient. You might not want that feedback. So when someone gives you that feedback, you do feel like it's an attack. And that is a form of being problematic because feedback can help you be better. I like feedback. When I was younger, I think it did make you feel like, especially the way that some people give you feedback, they can be such jerks, but in the way they give you feedback and the way they give it to you and just how it hits your ears sometimes, it's like, no, he's saying it all wrong. I don't like the way he's saying it. But that feedback, if you are open to it, if you keep your mind open and willing, that feedback can help you be a better person. And at the end of the day, to me, that is what life is about. You should be growing. And if people can give you things for you to be a better human or for you to be further ahead, listen to it. But you've got so many people who don't want to hear that because they're afraid to hear something that's different than the picture that maybe they painted themselves or other people have painted. And I'm not talking about if someone's just trying to like shit on you and it's not true. Like one of the things I remember a guy said something to me, and in all the years I was like, I ain't never heard that feedback. I had to take that to other people, and they're like, no. I was like, okay, I just want to make sure it's not something that I haven't seen. But there are things where I had to be honest with myself. I'm not an organized individual. If some guy says you're not organized, I mean, now it doesn't hurt my feelings because I know who I am. So it's like, yeah, but there was a point where that might hurt my feelings. And for what? It was the truth. It was the truth. So another thing about being problematic is that you play the victim to avoid responsibility. Oh my gosh. Let me take a sip of this one. If you go look at that interview with Natalie and Cam Newton, there were times where Cam Newton was asking her questions, like some important, impactful, hard-hitting questions. He was asking these questions. And instead of her being straight up and answering them, she got in her feelings or she played the victim so she can avoid answering their questions. I hate people like that. Just don't play the victim, especially when you kept telling your side, but you left out the parts where you messed up. This is gonna be controversial. So I was watching this true crime, and it was about a young lady who was murdered in my city, and she's dead now. It was called American Monster, and her estranged or ex-husband, not sure which one, he ended up killing her and her brother. And in those situations, I feel like whoever kills who, like you just took that L. You are always a monster, no matter what, because you always have the option of no longer engaging with this person. You always have the option of stepping away from this person. Murder is never the answer. So he's always going to be the monster. I don't care. But one of the things his family kept saying was, I'm almost out of screen time. So I was like, oh, okay, Noah, thank you for joining. I appreciate you. Thank you for listening. I hope you have a beautiful day and Happy New Year. But ooh, sorry. But she did some stuff too in there. I guess she, treated the guy bad. She wasn't the best partner herself. So that's what the family members kept saying. Now remember, he killed her brother. So again, once you start killing people, you're just wrong for life in my eyes. Like there is nothing. I get it. She hurt your feelings. I get it. She wasn't an angel. I get it. But once you start talking about removing people from this planet, you take that L forever. So even though she played a part in things, even though people may have left out the part of the games that she played, he is forever wrong. But that's an example of where people will tell a story, they will tell their side of the story. And instead of them telling all the parts of it, they only tell the parts that make them look like a victim. That is probably, you're a problematic person if you do that. If you tell stories where you always look like you are in the positive, or you're always in the green, you're problematic because you're not explaining to people how you screw that person over first. You're not explaining to people how you did that person dirty first. You're problematic. So that taught me to, if someone asks me why someone doesn't fuck with me anymore or why someone doesn't mess with me anymore, I tell the whole story because you have to take accountability. Hey, you know what? I told him I was going to do something. I forgot because of whatever reason. I have no excuse, but I just forgot and I didn't come through for him. And it looks bad. It happens. It happens. Where no one on this earth is perfect. And there are going to be times where you are the bad guy. All right. But I will say this, always be in your moral as much as you can. Always be in your integrity as much as you can. You're a falter. We're humans. Things happen, but stay in your integrity. And one of the parts of being integritous is not doing selective storytelling. Another one is emotional and manipulating. This is, the times you play the victim, emotional manipulating. Oh, I have these kids and I have to take care of these kids and you don't understand. But you use that man. You use that man for his money. Now he can't pay his bills. I know, but you don't understand what's it feel like to be a mother having all these kids, or yeah, I played her, but I really, really wanted this, and I knew that if I just so hard out here for a player. Emotional manipulation. That is a sign of someone who's always trying to be a victim, right? Another thing about always trying to be a victim to avoid that responsibility, you use trauma as a shield instead of context, right? So let's say that you were molested when you were younger and you use the fact that you were molested as a reason why you could treat people a certain type of way. Oh, I just had a bad childhood and this is why I am the way I am. Not accept. You are the problem, ma'am. You're the problem, sir. You are the problem. You cannot use the things that happen to you as a way to keep making the decisions or treating people the way that you want to treat them, which is not good because of what you've encountered. All right. I've seen people who, oh, I'm a Virgo. That's why I do this. I do not care if you was a Martian. You treat people with respect at all times. You got to treat with respect. You have to. So I just, everybody has had a traumatic background, a traumatic upbringing. Somebody has had something that happened to them. I get it. But that's not a reason why you treat people a certain type of way, which is poorly. That is not a reason to be problematic. Another reason why you're problematic was that you expected grace that you did not give. You wanted understanding, but you weren't offering any. I can't stand that. These are people who they always have such high mm, they put their nose up so high at other people. Oh my goodness. I can't believe I would never. But when they have a problem, oh, they want all the sympathy in the world. They want all the sympathy in the world. They have these double standards. If you were to do this, oh, it's a problem. But if they did, oh, they want your understanding. That's one of the things that I always empathy, right? I always felt like you got to be empathetic. That empathetic is helpful to be a human being in this world because even though I might not have gone through what you have gone through, I think to myself, that's not a situation I would want to encounter myself. That's not something I would want to go through myself. And I'm going to give you that empathy because that sucks. But what people will do is if they haven't encountered a problem, they don't have empathy, like domestic violence. One of the things we had talked about was the Cassie and the Diddy thing, and I'm not gonna go into it, but it was the part of where Cassie was trying to leave, and Diddy came and he like stopped her. We all saw that. Oh, why? Why didn't she just leave? And da, 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 blah, blah, blah. If you've never been in that situation where someone is stronger than you or have more power than you, you might not understand. You might not understand, especially as a man. Many men have physical strength, so there's not a woman who's going to keep a man in a situation. But where empathy comes in is that you think about like, wow, what if I didn't have this, if I didn't have that strong background, if I didn't have a strong such and such and such. You show that empathy. So don't, because one day you're going to go through something, and what you go through, other people might be like, oh man, I would never have that issue. You're going to want empathy. You're going to want somebody to say, dang, that sucks for that to happen to you. Another problem about expecting that grace that you didn't give is that you expect people to just get it when you can't do the same. You expect people to just get it together. But you don't just get it. You don't just got it. You gotta give people grace. It's so interesting to me to see people who don't give other people grace, but yet expect it. And usually when it's time for them to get it, they will milk it, honey. Oh my babe, they are going to milk it. Oh my goodness, I can't believe it. This I saw it, and I remember stuff. Let me tell you, I remember stuff. I remember watching. Okay, all right. So years ago, there was this guy, and he was like just shitting on single moms. Just if you're a single mother, I think that means you make poor decisions, and there's something wrong with you. And I would never date a single mother. Da, 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 da. And I remember thinking like, I mean, depending on the situation, he may not be wrong, but also depending on the situation, he might be a little bit harsh. You don't know what happens to those people, why they might be a single mother. Fast forward some years later, he's a single daddy. He is single daddy, and guess he's in single women who have no kids inboxes. So remember how you said single mothers deserve, they make poor decisions. Does that mean you make a poor decision? Oh no, it's different. It's different because of the woman that he picked. Blah, 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 blah. Not saying that you gotta have empathy so that you can get empathy, but perhaps this is me. Perhaps if you had a little bit of grace, maybe people will be more graceful to you, right? So have grace. Another reason why you're probably the problem is that you avoided difficult conversations and then you resented the outcome. This is me right here. This is me. I never said what I needed, and then I got mad when my needs weren't met. This is a form of you being problematic. If you want a relationship with a man or a woman and you go through you guys are together for a couple years and you never talk about you want a relationship and you never leave and you just accept it and you kept your mouth shut. And then at the end of y'all being together for 10 years, he goes to be with somewhere else. Whose fault do y'all think it is? Is it his fault, your fault? Now, before you answer that, please note, I am not saying that person is right, is a good person. They did the right thing because people know you want a relationship. They know you're not just hanging around because you like to just be in limbo. They know you want a relationship and they're playing you. They know that they're playing you. But they're also not holding you there by force. They're not holding you hostage. They're keeping you there not because they're keeping you there. They're keeping you there because you want to stay there. But because you never say how you feel, because you never put out there how you feel, right? You don't get what you want. If you ever hear this thing that says closed mouths don't get fed, you gotta say what you mean, baby. You gotta say what you want. And if you're not happy with the arrangement you are in, you need to say that. And before we go further, please take a moment to like the live, like, subscribe, because we'll do these lives twice a week. And we also have those shorts. So be sure you like the video. But you have to say what you want. People will keep their mouths closed and they won't say what they want. They won't say what they need. They won't get what they need. And then after time goes by, they get resentful because they're like, man, I wanted a relationship the whole time. I wasted all that time. You could have left at any time, boo-boo. If you're a dude talking about she had me doing all this work for her, she had me in the friend zone, and I thought that's your fault. One, stop being deceitful and just pretending to be friends to get what you want. If you know that you want to smash her and she's not going to let you smash her, you need to leave. You're problematic. You're problematic if you don't say what you feel. You're problematic if you don't say what needs you have and not getting those met. That's you. It's your fault. And that was me. I was a person who I felt like, well, they will figure it out or they know what I want, so they're going to keep me in mind. No, no, there are some people who feel like they're not obligated to keep you in mind. They're going to keep their needs in mind. They're going to make sure their needs are met. And as long as you are meeting their needs, that's all that matters. That's all that they care about. So you want to make sure that you say what you mean, right? Another part of the difficult conversations is fear of conflict. This is me. This is how, baby, we about to talk about me. Even to this day, I am not a fan of conflict. I hate conflict. I wish we could all just laugh and giggle all day. I wish we could sit here and sing the songs that our ancestors sing and just hold hands and ring around a rosy, ashes all fall down. Like, I just want us to be happy 100% of the time. But that's not life. That's not life. That's not what life gives you. That's not what life is about. Sometimes you have to have conflict. Earlier today, there's a young man who started working with me, and he was late to meetings. He wasn't really on meetings. He wasn't really dialed in. And as a project manager, I have to tell him these things which may be adverse to what he's hearing. He might be like, "Oh, she's cool," and I am, but I'm not that cool. And I had to have those uncomfortable conversations of, "Were you on the call today?" "Oh, yeah, I was on a call." "Okay, what do we talk about?" Well, like, I know there were some obs. Okay, well, what are we working on today? Um, I know we're doing back up." And somebody else was like, "No, we're not." And he was like, "Yeah, we are. We're doing," like, he kept, he's like, "Yeah, yes, we are." No, see, I was actually listening to the call. I know what the fudge we're doing tomorrow. That's not what we're doing tomorrow. We're not working on that tomorrow. And it was the uncomfortable conversation of level setting that expectation. But I had to look at it as, one, I want this guy to succeed. So if I want him to succeed, I need to give him the tools and tricks so that he can succeed. And if that means that I have to say something that doesn't sound good to him, then I gotta say something that don't sound good to them. That is what it is, because I'm not a hater. And I know that if your real boss, like, I'm cool, that's why I haven't told your boss that this is happening. But I know once your real boss sees this, oh, your boss don't play. He's from the he was in the armed services. He's about being on time. He's about being prompt. He gonna say something. I'm trying to save you. So you have to, in life, you have to have conflict. And conflict, everybody associates conflict with just being bad and arguments and fights. Sometimes you might have that, and that really means that that person is not really mature enough to handle that. But conflict doesn't always have to be about fights. Conflict, now I want to go look up the definition of conflict, because what does conflict mean? Because I want you guys to know what it means. People create meanings to words, and it's like, no, that's not really the meaning. So conflict means definition: to come into collision or disagreement, be contradictory, at variance, or in opposition, clash. So you can use it in different contexts. It can be used as arguing, fighting, or it could be in disagreeing. It could be discord, it could be dissension, contention, strife. So conflict can be bad, but it's necessary. If you're in it's a disagreement with somebody, you guys have to talk about conflict, even in relationships. If you have a man or a woman who's calling you a nickname you don't like, hey babe, I don't like that. What? Oh my God, I like calling you. I know you like calling me that. I know it, but I hate that name. It's a horrible name. If you call me that, that's going to make me go soft instantly. If you may not get the outcome that you want, and honestly, depending on what it is, that you may want to no longer be involved with that individual, but you need to have that. If you never say how you feel, if you never bring up some type of dissension or adverse ideology, you're going to be unhappy. Or do you want to just be unhappy for the sake of what? Because you don't like to have conflict? You want to be unhappy forever? I don't want to be unhappy forever. Forever can be a long time, especially if you make a wrong decision. Another thing is expecting mind reading. Expecting someone to read your mind. We talked about earlier. You can't expect people to read your mind. We're not going to beat that with a dead horse, beat that to a dead horse, or beat it like a dead horse. Oh no, we're not going to beat a dead horse. We're not going to beat a dead horse. But you want to make sure that when you're talking to your persons, that you're not expecting them to read your mind. Because let's say they could read your mind. Are they going to interpret it in the way that you want them to? No. So, for me, that was a big deal about avoiding the difficult conversations. When I was in this situationship for a grip, and I said, but I had those conversations, and what I wasn't realizing was he didn't want what I wanted, and it wasn't going to change. And even though I was having these conversations, the other part of that is when you have these conversations, if this is something important to you and it's not happening for you, you got to think about, is this where you want to be? Is this where you want to stay? You got to make that decision for yourself. I can't make the decision for you. But what I will say, the takeaway from that for me was unspoken expectations are premeditated resentment. All right. So if you don't say anything, you're going to be resentful. And that's nobody's fault but your own, baby. You weaponize self-care. You called it a boundary, but it was avoidance. So you cut off people instead of communicating with them. Now, I don't mind cutting off people. I cut you off in a second. But there's a difference in who I cut off versus me trying to be cool with people. So I feel like if someone is stopping you from being your best self, like they're always putting you down, they're always making you feel bad, they're always talking to you crazy, they don't respect you, just those type of negatives, that to me is a situation where you cut somebody off. right? You cut somebody off. I've had to cut people out of my life, and that's because every time they came around, there was no there was a not a mutual enjoyment. It was always just they got this high off of how they would treat me, which was not the way that I want to be treated. And you're allowed to do that. You're allowed to say, hey, when you talk to me, you need to talk to me with respect. Oh, you can't do that? What? Oh, we ain't cool. Like, it's okay for that to happen. But the other thing is like people will cut people off just because they don't want to talk about a problem. Oh, that's it. I've had enough. We're not going to talk about this. I got to get this off my chest. Like, this is a core issue we have. We don't want to talk about this issue because because you're setting this imaginary boundary. An example of that to me is if you say, hey, babe, now, mind you, you should have this conversation before you get married. But let's say you have this, hey, hon, I don't think that we should spank our children. You know, I've had enough. We're not going to talk about that anymore. That's important. Like that can make or break a relationship. You talking about that's enough and I'm not, going to communicate and that's it. That's and you're like, I gotta keep my peace. That's not keeping your peace. You just don't feel like talking and listening to other people. You don't feel like talking and listening to other people's feelings or your thoughts. So people will cut you off instead of having that communication. Or I've seen a lot of girls, they go into issues with women, with other women, and instead of them resolving an issue, they would rather stop talking to the girl. And I've been guilty of this kind of, but in my defense, I felt like there were several instances where this individual showed me that they're not as good of a friend as I am to them. And I know some of you are just like, well, earlier you said, you can't judge other people by their type of friendship. That is true, but there's also like basic level friendship. And I feel like there were certain things like when this person would get around family members, before family members were around, we were ace boo coon, peas in the pocket, besties. But when their their other friend or family members would come along, they would just like they would ban against me. Like, bro, we was just sitting here skipping, holding hands, just tee hee hee and kiki and now like you ganging up on me? That's not what friendship is. Or whenever I needed help or something, they would, kind of clown you, like, wait, clown you, make fun of you. That's not what friends do. But yet, when they needed help, I'm there, like, what you need? This is not even a question. I got you. So that was why I cut that off. But I will say this: if none of that other stuff would have happened, if the friendship wasn't called in question, one of the things that I did do was this person had owed me money. And I was thinking I was like mid-20s, but I was just done with the friendship. So it was just the excuse. But this person owed me money and they didn't want to pay this money to me. I just felt like, I want to figure out how to say it. I felt like I didn't have the money to lend. I didn't have the money to lend. I didn't have the money. I wasn't really good with that money. I took money that I really needed, maybe for a bill, to give to them so they could have it. And I was very vocal. I was like, hey, I can give this to you, but I have to have it back. Like, I do not have any money. I do not have any money. And then when that time came, like when it was time for the due, I wasn't even on it like that. Even though I needed it because I have no money, I wasn't even on it like that. I was just like, all right. So I just kicked back, just wait. And I let a couple days go by. And I was like, now, mind you, this was supposed to be a really good friend of mine, but they ain't call, they ain't say nothing to me. And I really feel like that if you have someone who's a friend or they call you a friend, I feel like there are certain behaviors that you have that you do that other people that you do for your friends. Like as a friend, if I borrow money from you as a friend, you don't have to come and find me. I know I owe you money. So if I can't pay you the day that I told you I was gonna pay you, I'm gonna call you, or I'm gonna text you, look, I know I owe you this. I got this going on. Do you mind if I have an extension? I'm gonna talk to you about it because I don't know your financial situation. Okay. This person didn't do that. And days went by, they didn't say anything. So I texted them, reached out. They ignored me. Like, mind you, this was a very close childhood friend. They ignored me. I reached out to him again, ignored me. Then I reached out to him like another time, like, well, does your phone work? And then they got all spicy. Well, I'll get it to you as soon as I can. Why did you not? Why do I have to chase you for it? You know you owe me money. And it wasn't, I know y'all like over $5. It was not five, it was a couple $100. And again, I didn't have it. Now that I'm an adult, I've learned that you don't let people borrow money if you can't afford to lose it. You never let people borrow more money that you can lose. If someone borrowed $1,000 from you, and I'm not even saying like they won't pay it back to you because they're being a mean person, they might pass away. If they were to pass away, could you do without that $1,000? You gotta think about it. Don't let people borrow money that you can't afford to get back. Another thing that people will do for that weaponized self-care, they refuse accountability under the label of protecting peace. And you've seen there are people who they know they did you wrong, right? So in that situation, she eventually did give him the money back, but I always was calling her anyway. I always called her. She never really called me. So it was just I was like, you know what? I'm gonna see if she calls. Like if she calls me, I will the relationship is saved. I know it's just not a one-sided relationship. But I'm not gonna call her because I'm always calling her. I'm always calling her. I'm always checking up on her. I'm always reaching out to her. And I just feel like it was unfair. I just felt like she just wasn't, as a friend, wasn't into me like I was into her. And she never called me. And that's legit how the friendship was. She never called me. But let's just say that, like, she didn't like my behavior. Instead of her addressing, hey, why were you on me like this? Why were you bothering me about this? Let's say she just cut me off. That right there is a form of refusing that accountability under the label of protecting peace. Oh, I can't deal with her champagne anymore because, I didn't protect my peace, but not really addressing all the core issues. You just cut somebody off. That right there falls underneath the accountability or weaponizing self care. Another thing is you're confusing comfort with healing. I feel you have people who don't want to deal with issues, who don't want to deal with problems because, it's a conflict. And because you just push it out of sight, out of mind, you feel like, oh, well, I feel fine. I feel good. And you think you're healed, but you're not because there's a problem and you refuse to fix it. So you are problematic if you weaponize self care, y'all. Not everything that feels good is healthy. Just because, oh, I don't have to think about it, out of sight, out of mind, it feels good. No, sometimes you got to deal with that stuff. You got to deal with it. You got problems and you got to deal with it. The last one I'm going to touch on that I'm going to jump on is you were loyal to familiar pain, right? I kept choosing what hurt me because it felt normal. It's me, y'all. This is me, y'all. I had daddy issues, and one of my daddy issues was I wanted a guy to really love me. I wanted somebody to love me unconditionally, like I had wished that my dad did. And so I was choosing these dudes who had kids and they loved these kids left and right, but they didn't love me. They loved what I could do. And because I wanted that love so bad, I would do things to make myself feel worthy of that love. Like I would buy them things. I was there at every beck and call. I would shift my entire world around just so that I can accommodate them. And then when the shoe was on the other foot, that priority wasn't given to me. Now, you might be like, well, you champagne, you tripping, you don't know. Oh, you want receipts? All right, baby, let me give you some receipts. So remember the guy I told you who didn't have a job? And I asked him, I was like, why don't you get a job? And he was just like, "Oh, my feelings are hurt." Okay. And he never bought me anything. Like every time, for some reason, maybe not for some reason, but we were never messing with each other around Christmas and my birthday. Coincidence? I think not. And so one of the things that he, he did was, remember, he didn't have any money, and I was just always bending over backwards for him because I was a dumb little broad. All right, I've learned something better. Um, when I remember I went over to his parents' house and he had his kids there, and I saw a Build-A-Bear, and I've always wanted to build a bear, even still now. I always wanted to build a bear, and he had a Build-A-Bear in the box, and I was like, "Oh, who's that for?" I'm thinking it's for the kids. He bought it for his baby mama for her birthday. Now, me and his sisters were still friends. Me and his sister were friends first because we all went to high school together. And I'm like, he bought it for her. And she was like, yeah, he borrowed the money from me so he could buy it for her. That was always an option. So wait a minute. Wait a minute. So he had money. He could get money to buy gifts. He just never bought me gifts. Oh my god. And these were the guys that I would choose. But subconsciously, I always had to fight for my dad's love. So it just made sense that you did this for people. And you don't have to fight, like date someone who wants to be with you, who wants to make you happy. I wasn't. I'd find a guy that I liked and he had these qualities, and I would try to make him see that I was it. And you can't do that. So I had those traumatic patterns of, that's one of the things, when I looked at the guys that I dated, I was like, why would I with this one? Because I wanted to be with somebody. I wanted to be with someone who I liked, who was a good dad, but I never thought about, I never realized you should be with someone who likes you enough to do those things that you don't have to ask for. So I tell you guys this not because I want sympathy, because I'm older and I know better, but once I started picking guys who liked me, who actually wanted to be around me, who wanted to talk to me, things changed. But I had to work through those trauma patterns. Another thing about being familiar to that pain, you fear change. So when I was in this situationship, I was in it for more years than I would like to admit. And I was afraid of getting out of that situation because I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I'm not going to find anyone like this. I'm not going to find anyone that I like this much, or who, because we had a pattern, we had established, like I really enjoyed being with them. And even though they didn't love me the way that I loved them, I just felt like, well, this is a really decent dude in comparison to a lot of the guys I meet. I'm not going to meet anyone who's as decent as this guy is. So, maybe if I give it time and he just sees what type of person I will, no, that's not. They don't see, baby. They don't see, boy, girl. They do not see. Okay, so you've got to be mindful of that. Don't be afraid to change. Don't be afraid to change and break that pattern. I don't even know what. Yeah, I do. I think I was afraid to change that pattern because you feel like you're not going to get better. You feel like there's not better out there. But one of the things I learned was, yeah, there's better. There's always better. There's always better out there. That's why some people have a hard time being faithful, because they think there's always better. There's always something just a little bit better. And there may not always be something super better, or, you might have a really good thing and you might leave it. It might take you a while to find that better. But I can tell you this, if you're in a situation where this person is not good for you, I guarantee you there's better for you, baby. And another one is self-sabotage disguised as preference. Oh my goodness. So I think I fumbled the bag on a dude one time in my life. One time where it's like, I wish I would have played that a little differently. And I had met this guy, and he was a good dude, probably like one of the nicer dudes I had met in so long, but I wasn't healed. And I was in a situation where I was not completely free and clear of it. And one of the things I did not want to do was I did not want to drag this guy into this emotional mess that I was, right? Because I'm not, it was going to take him a while to earn my trust because I don't trust people. And, I would always be like, well, what, I would probably have like this jealous mind. Like I wasn't healthy mentally. And he was a decent dude. Will I run into another one? Yes, because I ran into more afterwards. But that was one where it was like, I wish I was a bit more healed because he would have been a good contender. He would have been a good contender. But I think had I worked on myself more, I think he probably would have stuck around because he really, really liked me. And he took me out to a date. First date, didn't have to ask. There was no issues. He showed me like he was a decent guy. But because I was unhealed, I self-sabotaged. I pulled away because I was afraid that I wasn't good enough for him. And at that time, I wasn't emotionally where I needed to be. So I do believe that even till this day, even though when you're like, he was a good dude, I do know that I was not mentally where I needed to be. And that was a way that I was being problematic. So being familiar doesn't mean safe. Just because you're used to a certain behavior, just because you're used to being treated a way, you don't have to be what you've always been. You can change it. And there are people who feel a certain type of way because you try to change your life. F those people, right? They're not living your life and they get mad at you for changing to wanting to be better because they can't change and want to be better. And misery loves company. If you change and you're better, that means that people can change. And that means that becomes an expectation for them. And baby, they do not want to change, okay? So you guys, the hardest truth I ever learned was that I wasn't misunderstood. I was unhealed in a lot of these things. And because I didn't heal myself, because I didn't work on myself, I was problematic. Being problematic is not just about making other people's lives hell. It's also about making yourself have a life that's full of hell. I thought I thought if I loved other people more, I thought if I put into other people more, I thought if I worshiped other people more, that it would fix everything. And it didn't. But what actually helped me change was changing how I felt about myself, having that self esteem, having that value that I deserve to be treated a certain type of way and not putting myself in fudged up situations where I keep receiving a treatment that's not healthy. So I say all this so that you guys can learn from my mistakes. Pain did that. So hopefully you won't have to go through all of this, okay? So thank you guys. If you stayed here to the end of this, oh my gosh, thank you so much. I truly appreciate you. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, drop a comment on a topic that's dear to you, that's something that's bothering y'all because I want to help you guys. Thank you for listening to me today. I'm gonna jump off. I will be back on Tuesday for another live. I don't know what we'll talk about then, but we'll talk about something. But be safe, be sound, be loved. Bye. I'll be stroking. Oh, that's what I be doing. Hey, I'll be